Okay, good evening. This is Brian Baylor, Village Administrator, Hannah City. It is October 2nd, 2023, 6 p.m. And I'm calling the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Village of Hannah City to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, in the packets in front of you, you'll see we have an agenda. The first thing on the agenda, we have 3 public hearings that we have to open and close. We have to vote to open, vote to close each one of them, and then we can talk about them during the public hearings. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to open a public hearing on the proposed pre-annexation agreement with owners seeking to annex properties with tax PIN identification number 1229400-022, located at 15722 West Cottonwood Road, Elmwood, Illinois 61529. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Lonsberry makes the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Fulkerson. Let's vote. Lonsberry?
Yes.
Fulkerson?
Yes.
McCoy?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Okay, so historically, there's been one key rule that we've used for pre-annexations, that they had to be, well, there's 3 rules, I guess. One is, we didn't always follow this, but they like it to be within 1.5 miles of a property that is already fully annexed. Otherwise, Peoria County can vote and deny the pre-annexation and retain control over it. That's unlikely that that happens, but that's the rule. The other one is there a benefit to the village and the taxpayers of Hannah City for pre-annexing that property? And then the third one that we've just kind of been operating with in the last year and a half, 2 years is, do we have a line of sight to eventually one day fully annexing that property? Because if we don't feel like eventually we can fully annex it, then we're taking on the cost of doing their permitting and all of those things, but we're never going to see the property tax because there's unlikely that we're ever going to have them fully annexed. So there's going to be cost added to the village, but not much value added. Okay, so let's talk about this specific property. Irene, if you're okay, can you come on over here? Dennis, why don't you pull that map down in front of you and Ken there, just right there on that table, and we'll just sit around here, the 4 of us, and we'll go over it. Yeah, I've labeled it. So this, what you see in blue, is the last time we documented everything, is the properties that are annexed, fully annexed into the village. This purple line represents roughly the 1.5 mile perimeter that I spoke about. Okay?
And that's from the center of the village?
It's supposed to be from the last property that's fully annexed.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it's kind of, it's rough, but
Okay,
it's
right.
it's close. Okay. So you can see we've got some that, you know, I don't know if we're ever, like this property out here, are we ever gonna, you know, fully annex that one? But that means all this stuff has to come into play. So we've kind of changed.
So these pinks are pre-annexed?
Correct, I'm sorry. The pinks are all pre-annexed. Okay. Yep. So the property that we're talking about isn't even on this map. It actually sits. It's identified with this little green
this is
sticker.
Upside down to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is.
Well, if they're in Elmwood, why are they wanting to annex in Hannah City?
It's just an Elmwood address, just like some people have Hannah City addresses, but
some
really,
people here have trouble addresses too.
No.
Yeah, or Hannah City, and they're technically just Peoria County. That's who governs their code today, right? Does everybody kind of have an understanding of where you are? 116 running through here. Okay, so this would be north. Yeah, so this would be
off to this way.
Okay,
Over
correct,
there,
yeah, and we can flip it around if that makes sense.
No, that's
Easier.
okay.
Okay, so this is north. So this property sits right out here, and it's owned by the Hermans, who are asking to pre-annex. And I don't know if you know much about the Hermans, but they have multiple businesses. They have Noah Brothers, or Herman Brothers, Noah Herman and Sons Builders. They have the fishery that's currently located out on Taylor Road. You know that fishery that's on, okay. And they also own the frontage property. Where's Pekin Lane? Pekin Lane's here.
No, it'd be over there.
Right in here.
Okay. So they currently own the frontage property. Is this south? Yeah. They own the frontage property.
There's Pekin Lane.
Yeah, they own this frontage property right here.
Where?
Right here.
Is that Casey's across the street?
Correct. That's Casey's, and there's a farm.
Yeah, it's right across
here.
from Casey's.
Yep.
Yeah.
That farm's not all together, is it? It's owned by
No.
two different people.
Correct. This is owned by Gary Dooley. We're going to talk some more about that too.
Oh, Gary? Okay.
And this is owned by the Herman brothers. The Herman brothers say their long-term plan is they want to bring they want to consolidate all of their offices for all of their businesses right into this little frontage property right here. Okay, they want to develop it and bring it in, which will be a good thing. Because one of the things they want to do is they have for these fisheries and for these lake, they sell chemicals for lakes that we buy them from them for the lagoon and so forth. But that business is operating out on Taylor Road now. They eventually want to move the retail portion of that to this location. Okay, they want to move the fishery portion, so where they actually have the fish, to this location. Okay, which would be, then they'd have it close enough to where the people could come and buy, and then they could go out here and get it, and off they go, or they could deliver it up in or whatever. But they want them to be that close together. Okay, which is why they've asked for the pre-annexation. Right. So, answering the question, is it within the 1.5? No, it's out. Right. The other question is, does it add value? Certainly. If we had this within the village, we'd be getting the taxes for that business, not just the property, but for that business.
Are they the ones that already have some solar panels over there?
It's not solar. This is a fishery we're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Yep.
They stock lakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they also sell chemicals and stuff like that to kind of do
Okay,
lake
I got
control.
it,
So,
yeah.
yep, you're okay. So this out here is the property. Now, line of sight. What they've already done, they've begun talking to the property owners to try to get them line of sight to where we can pull that, we can get enough pink coming out this direction in order to get them in. So right now they have this property they want to pre-annex. They're also asking for this property to be pre-annexed. And it links with this one. It comes around like that and goes in. Okay? But they're two different PIN numbers.
How many acres?
This one's like 93. This one's smaller. I don't remember how much, like 30, maybe something like that. So they've already begun talking to these people. So everything where you see pink is this one. Everywhere you see pink is where somebody we would like to get them pre-annexed. I made some other marks, but the pink one's the one we want to pre-annex. So there's a house there. There's this one here. There's this property here, which connects with this one here, which connects with this one here, which then would connect to this one here, which would pick up that wayside neighborhood down there where all those nice homes are. So if we did all this, it would pick that up as well. So there'd be tax dollars
You need
there.
to get this one here or this one.
Correct. And these are the two we've been talking to for the longest time. I don't think these folks,
I don't think they're interested.
they have no interest. But these folks, we think we might be able to get convinced, which then would get us connected. So then this all would be blue, blue, blue. This would all become blue. I've got another pre-annexation for the 23rd. There's a house going to be built there. So we get those three properties. This would become blue. This would become blue. This would become blue. And then this up here would become blue. And so all of that would become annexed. So from a property tax standpoint, we'd be picking up the fishery. We'd be picking up this neighborhood. Those would be the two biggies in terms of increasing the property tax for the village. Okay.
All the houses.
They're all pre-annexed.
I mean, you're picking up that housing area out here.
Yeah. About halfway to Tribola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up the lane, up the long lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If
Yeah.
this works,
That's pretty fancy houses back there.
so if this works, all of that would come in. So what are the steps? Well, the first step would be to pre-annex this property. the next step would be to pre-annex this property and this property, which is why I've got them set up for the 23rd. Okay.
Is this theirs also?
No, this is somebody else that's come in
Okay.
recently, and that's why I had to push the date from the 16th to the 23rd. But they're going to build a house there, so we'd be picking up another home. But we got to get these two to get them, right? So we'd be picking up a new home here, all of these homes here, plus the fishery. So it'd be a pretty good deal. Now I've got the attorneys working on all the steps to do this, and I'm working with the attorneys to find out. Some of these people just have farm ground, so there's not much taxes on them anyway, and they're not going to ever be anything but farm ground. So can we offer them a tax abatement for X period of time that would give them an incentive to come in, so it wouldn't cost them anything more anyway? I'm working through all of those details now. But I wanted you to see the big picture that says if we pre-annex this and we pre-annex this too, eventually we could be picking up the fishery, all of this ag ground, another home, this neighborhood, all coming into the village.
But that's over a mile and a half out.
It is beyond the mile and a half out. So if they're only pre-annexed, Peoria County can say
I know.
and pull it back. But if they're annexed, which is what the Hermans want, we can connect all these dots and they're annexed, Peoria County can't do anything.
Correct.
But you don't think they would anyway.
Present.
We don't think it's unlikely that they would, but they might, because if they put in this fishery out there, they may decide they want it back and vote to keep it.
So they can do that anytime.
Anytime it's only pre-annexed,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. But if we connect the dots and fully annex it, then we're good. At least I think it's for 21 or 22 years is the length of the annexation agreement, something like that. So that's the public discussion about what it is that we're
So if
trying
we
to accomplish.
pre-annex this now, Peoria County comes along before you get the rest of this done, takes it back, what happens then?
Then I think they'll keep it.
Peoria County would keep it.
Yeah.
So
Now, probably what we would have to do then is go the opposite direction. We probably have to start coming this way and then get to the point where they're connected.
And then you could
Then I could annex.
bring it back again. Whether they say anything.
But what I'm trying to do is these guys are on a timeline. These guys are on a timeline, right? They want to get construction rolling. So I'm trying to.
but these guys are no problem.
Yeah.
Because they're within a mile and a half.
Correct.
And these in the pink will probably not have a decision within a month or a short period of time.
You're right. I mean, it's going to take us a little while to get all that done. I'd love to have it done by the end of the year, but we'll see.
Well, yeah.
But in terms of, we're a small little town, and our opportunities for increased revenue or property tax or increased sales tax, really.
Well, if we pre-annex it now, is that going to force Peoria County to jump in and say no before we get a chance to do the rest of it?
I don't think so, because it's kind of a double-edged sword, because the other issue is they want to start construction. So if we pre-annex them, they're going to send us a permit. They want to start building.
Because when they pre-annex,
they
they
through
come
our
under
code.
our jurisdiction for codes.
That's right.
So
That's
that
right.
kind of puts Peoria County kind of on the outside looking in.
Correct.
Sort of.
Most people tell me that it's unlikely, but that they'll do anything, but especially in a short period of time. But they may. But like I said, if they do, then we got to work backwards. What I eventually anticipate is once I get all the information from the attorneys, I got to have a meeting with all of these people, right?
Individual or together?
I think I'm probably going to have them together. And then I'm going to basically tell them if you're farm ground, we'll give you an abatement. And if you're not farm ground, if you have a house or a business or something on it, we won't give you an abatement because of the tax dollars. But we've already got the Herman brothers who have some influence. They know a lot of these people. I mean, they've already talked to everybody from here up, I think, about pre-annexing. So it's this one right here is going to be but Fred says he's got a relationship there. Fred Winterhoff that might be able to help us.
And the people that own that,
That's Sullivan's.
they're
not. I've talked to them. They're not very interested. And to be honest with you, if I had farm ground, I mean, I have farm ground. If I'm not going to build on it, there's really no reason to come in, because the really only benefit is getting out of Peoria County's tax, or getting out of Peoria County's code restrictions.
The other thing will be coming around back.
Yeah, because
On this way.
we'd love to have these guys or these guys to pick up Eden,
Yeah.
because there's a bunch of homes in there we could pick up. But right now, I'm trying to tackle this one, and I don't think they're interested, but we might be able to do something here. All right, does this all make sense?
Clear as mud.
All right, one last look.
I'm not moving this against
Stay right here. Okay, so I'm going to accept a motion to entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the pre-annexation.
I'll make that motion to close public hearing.
All right, so
I'll second
from
it.
McCoy and second from Fulkerson. Let's go in order. Fulkerson,
Yes.
Yes.
McCoy.
Yes.
Okay, so that's closed. All right, now I'll entertain the motion to open a public hearing on the same property, because we have to zone it a certain, we have to zone it ag or business or whatever. And we've put the designation of ag on it. We need to have a separate public hearing to discuss that. So I'll entertain a motion to open a public hearing on considering designating the PIN number and the address we just spoke about an ag zoning district.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
So Lonsberry motion. We have a second.
I'll second. Go ahead, Danny.
Second by McCoy. In order, McCoy,
Yes.
Lonsberry,
Yes.
Fulkerson.
Yes.
All right, so the public hearing on the ag zoning is open. Really, there's not much to talk about here because everything around it is ag in Peoria County. It's still going to be ag, even though they're going to be. I did some research on the fishery. It's considered an ag business. So even though
fish farm.
So the ag designation under our code would work fine for them as well. Any questions on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the ag zone.
Oh, I do not make a motion to close.
Okay,
I open it,
Lonsberry,
I might as well
do I have a
close.
second?
I'll second.
Fulkerson second, and let's go in order. Lonsberry, we're back to you.
Yes.
Fulkerson,
Yes.
Yes.
McCoy, yes. Okay. All right, so now the last thing I've got is to open a public hearing on amending Title XV of the Hannah City Village Code to adopt a zoning ordinance for solar energy installations in the village of Hannah City. Do I have a motion to open that public
I'll
hearing?
make that motion.
Fulkerson makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Lonsberry second. We're going to vote. Fulkerson,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Lonsberry.
Yes.
Okay, so in your deck, you've got a document. So we're not voting on, do we want a solar farm in Hannah City? What we're voting on is if someone comes in and says they want to put solar farm in Hannah City, or if they want to put it in other locations or on their buildings and so forth, we're creating a zoning guideline for that. So basically, we're not saying, yes, anybody can do it at this point.
So nobody's interested right now.
Now, we do have somebody that's interested,
Oh, okay.
and we can talk about that. But the reason we're doing this is because someone's interested in doing a solar farm. You know where I showed you that frontage property? Right behind it, Gary Dooley, that farm property.
Oh, yeah, Gary's place.
Yeah, and it goes on behind Brooks buildings there.
Okay.
So it'd be behind the frontage property and behind Brooks buildings.
Across from Casey's.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have Gary.
Yeah, but
Gary
not
telling me he
directly.
needs to annex his property in.
I think it
Where his
is.
house is.
It is. Oh, his house? That property actually is annexed. This is the, I think I showed this to you last time, but this is the drawing of what it is that they want to do. So this is 116 here, and this is, what would this be, Hannah City Glassford?
Pekin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pekin
Pekin.
Lane.
So you would have, eventually you're going to have all the buildings from Herman's up here, and then they're going to put bushes around the rest of it. And then they have to have a certain amount of distance off of things, but then there'd be solar panels behind Brooks and then actually behind this stuff here. But we're not approving that or not approving that at this point. All we're saying is if they want to come in and do that, they're going to live underneath the new solar zoning guidelines, which are highlighted in here. So we had the attorneys work with some other communities and go through and say, what do we want to adopt for Hannah City? And you guys are actually the first to see this. The board will see it tomorrow night. But basically, all we're voting on tonight, eventually we'll be voting on tonight, is does the village of Hannah City, do you all want to amend our zoning to include guidelines for solar in case someday we want to approve something?
And this would also include solar on houses, and
Correct.
garages, and
Correct.
people's yards.
Correct. It's full. It encompasses everything.
Because we have a few in town now
I was gonna
that,
say, yeah, we already got some in town.
And it's increasing. There's more people wanting to do it and so forth. And so I think it's good for us to put the guidelines in place so that people have to, follow that. Up to this point, it's not been anything major, like in a commercial or.
Do we have somebody that for this to put in that can inspect it? We have a inspector that's qualified for.
Yeah, there'll be. So the way, if Gary wants to do this, not only the first step is to get us to say, yeah, you can do it, but you'd have to do it in these guidelines. Then the next step would be he's got to get Ameren's approval, and then there's a state governing body that has to say that they would do it and approve it. And if those two things happen, then you'd have to come back and get the permits consistent with this to actually build it, right? And then
So I'm not gonna live long enough to see it.
and then once it's built, I think all they do is they lease the property to the solar company. Solar company has a 20-year lease, and then when the 20-year lease is up, they have to put it back to its original condition or better.
Or redo it.
Or I think you can redo it for one time for another 10 years. So I think the longest it would be is 30, if I understand correctly. Gary, what he's thinking is he's got other family that own other farm ground. My understanding is he would like to, consolidate it all and have it all because he's the only one that farms. And then this would be a way for him to create additional revenue to help him buy out
his brother is not farming. His oldest brother lives up around Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah. So when they came in and asked, hey, is it possible for us to do this? Caleb, who's a surveyor, Caleb Johnson, was like, well, we don't even have any rules to guide them. So what we have to do is create the rules, and then we have to listen to their proposal, and the board will either say yay or nay, but under these guidelines. But plus they got to get the other approval, and then if they do that, they got to come back and ask for a permit. So again, we'd be talking about the permit, whether or not we're going to approve that for them to even build it. So all we'd be voting on tonight will be, do we want to amend the village code to add guidelines for solar? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. I have a motion to close the public
I
hearing.
make a motion.
Fulkerson has the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
McCoy second. I think we're on. Ken, your vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Irene?
Yes.
Okay, so we close the public hearing. We do not have any guests. Let me check and make sure. Nobody's in the waiting room. It's true. Nobody's in the waiting room online to talk to us. Okay. The next thing is, real quick, just the minutes from the last meeting. You can look at those real quick, and you can tell me whether or not you want to approve the minutes from the September 19th, 2023 meeting. I will entertain a motion to do that.
I so move.
Okay, Fulkerson makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
McCoy seconds. This one we can just, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So the next thing we're looking at then is now we're getting into the stuff we have to vote on, the details that we have to vote on for the stuff we just talked about. So there's a finding of facts for the proposed annexation. Everybody find that one? I think there's 6 questions. So the first questions, are there existing uses of other property within the general area of the subject property similar in nature to those in the newly sought zoning classification? So if you think about it in terms of a fishery, the answer would be no. But if you think about it in terms of the zoning classification, which is ag, the answer would be yes, if you guys agree. Right? Okay. Are there recent trends in land use development in the general area toward uses similar in nature to those in the newly sought zoning classification? Again, it's all zoned ag, so I think the answer is yes. Yeah. Are there conditions which render the subject property less desirable and appropriate for other zoning classifications in the zoning ordinance besides the zoning classification sought here? Again, I don't think so. I think the answer is I think the answer to that one's no.
That's what I said.
Are there other areas already zoned for the use to which the subject property is currently zoned? Yes. Does the zoning change serve the public interest? I think it does. Really, it's not a change. It's ag today. It's just ag in Peoria County. It's becoming ag in Hannah City. In other words, that we'd have increased property taxes as a result eventually if we can fully annex it. Is the zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan? Really, the comprehensive plan doesn't go out that far, so I would say it is consistent because it's not inconsistent. What is today's date? The 2nd? This is the 2nd day of October. All right, so we need to vote on this. Everybody is comfortable with those answers. We'll vote on it, and we'll vote on it in individual form. So do I have a motion to approve the findings of fact for the proposed pre-annexation agreement for the property pin 1229400-022?
I'll make that motion.
So we got that from, Ken?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second from Fulkerson. All right, we're going to vote. Irene?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, Dennis?
Dennis. Ken? Okay.
You got any name?
Denny, Kenny, I don't know.
So it's approved. Yep. All right, so I need you guys to sign. Each of you to sign that document. All right, the next document takes care of two things. I think. I think we just I need to make a recommendation. So I'd entertain a motion to recommend to the board the proposed pre-annexation agreement with tax identification number 1229400-022.
I'll make that motion.
Ken makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Irene second. So vote would be Ken, or start with Dennis.
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Irene?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the finding of facts and the recommendation approved. All right, I would entertain a motion to go the findings of fact. I guess we don't have, there's no questions to be answered on that one. I probably ought to vote on it anyway.
Does anybody need to make a motion for that recommendation?
I thought they did.
Oh, here, never mind. I'm just,
There's no finding of fact, really. There's no questions to be asked on the ag zoning, but I would ask then for do we have a recommendation by the Board of Trustees to zone pin number 1229400-022 ag?
I'll make
So
that
Ken
motion.
makes the motion.
I'll
That's
second it.
second by Fulkerson. Let's vote. Who went first last time?
I did.
Ken.
Yes.
Irene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dennis. Okay. So I need 10-223. This I need you guys to sign too. So this is the actual recommendation document.
This is for the board.
Correct. The board has to have the findings of facts and that recommendation from you guys to vote on
All right.
tomorrow night. Yep.
like I'm signing my life away here.
So that was a recommendation to present to the board?
The zoning classification.
Okay.
So we have two documents. We have a finding of facts document for the annexation and zoning. I'm sorry, that was both. And then we have a recommendation for the annexation and zoning of both.
Oh, there, okay, I missed.
So we had a vote to do the findings of fact for both, and then a vote to recommend both, annexing and zoning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now we've got finding of facts for the amendment of the adopting the village code. I don't have a document that we have to fill out or complete, but we can have any discussions that you want to have on that. Is there anything in there that you have questions about? It's pretty much, as I talked to Caleb and others, because Caleb's I guess our board member, he knows the most about it. They basically took some boilerplate stuff from some other communities and did the things necessary to kind of protect us. No other questions on that? Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees an amendment to Title XV of the Hannah City Village Code to adopt zoning ordinances for solar energy installations in the village of Hannah City.
I shall move.
Fulkerson, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Lounsbury, second, and the vote. Who went first last time? Ken. So Irene,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
and Ken.
Yes.
Okay. So that's approved. I need to date this. 10/2/2023. All right. So this is saying you're recommending this amendment to our zoning for solar. No correspondence. We're going to have another meeting to talk about those other two green properties for pre-annexation, maybe anything else that comes up. I'd like to do it on the 23rd of October, potentially. I know Dennis says he's not available on that date. I don't know whether Chris is or not.
That on Monday?
Huh?
That on Monday?
It is.
Yeah, I think I am.
Let me, if we don't do it that day, let me look at my calendar real quick.
Once the board meet the next day.
No, that one they don't. So I was going to do it the 16th, because I think the board does meet the 17th, so then we just could vote again. But we can't do it the 16th, because I don't have all the documents are posted in time to do the 16th. So the earliest we could do it is the 23rd. When's the next board meeting? So we've got one tomorrow, which is what?
The third.
Third,
and then
okay, and then the 17th.
17th.
And then after the 17th, it would be what?
The 7th. Well, let me see what. Oh, yeah, the 7th of November.
Yeah, so
I mean, you could do it
you could do the 6th.
the 30th.
I could do the 23rd, the 30th, or the 6th in order to have it all done for the next board meeting. So let me do this. Let me talk to Chris and see what his availability is. If he's available, maybe we'll just go ahead on the 23rd. If he's not, then I'll push it out. Like I said, the only things I know of right now we'll be voting on will be those other two pre-annexations for those properties. All right. If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Irene,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
a second.
I'll second.
All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Which one do you take your glasses?
Oh,
So let me shut this up.
All right, who did the second?
Ken.
Okay.